My name is Raphael. I'm 28 years old, and I work as a gas station attendant on Route 9 in rural Oregon. It's one of those places you only stop if you really have to. Isolated, surrounded by dense pine trees on both sides, with the road disappearing into the darkness like an open gorge. I work the midnight to 6 in the morning shift, 4 nights a week. Most people find it strange, but I like it. No traffic, no chaos. Just me, the convenience store lit by those softly humming fluorescent lights and the occasional sound of a passing truck. But that changed 5 nights ago. It was a Tuesday. 3 in the morning. I was counting the cash register when I heard the convenience store doorbell ring. I looked up. No one had come in. The door was closed. Just the wind, I thought. I went to the window to check the bombs. Everything was empty. Total silence. And that's when I saw it. Near pump number 3, illuminated by the yellowish headlight of the lamppost, there was a baby chair. It wasn't old. It looked new, actually. Gray fabric with little white stars. The kind you see at any Walmart. It was turned sideways, as if someone had carefully placed it there. I got out slowly. The air was cold. Colder than it should have been for April. My breath came out in small clouds. I stopped about 3 meters from the car seat and looked around. No cars. No people. Nothing. Hello? My voice sounded ridiculous in the void. Silence. I approached. The high chair was empty. But when I bent down, I smelled that scent. You know when you enter a baby's room? Talcum powder, milk, something soft and sweet. It was there. I grabbed the high chair and took it inside. I put it behind the counter. I called the local sheriff, left a message. I figured someone had forgotten. Maybe a tired, confused mother who would realize the mistake in the morning. But nobody cared. And the following night, she was back. Not behind the counter. Outside. At pump number 1. Facing the road. I stood in the doorway of the convenience store, staring at the chair illuminated by the lamppost. My heart was racing, but my mind was trying to find logic in it. Someone was playing a joke on me. It had to be that. Maybe Tyler from the afternoon shift. He always made stupid jokes. Or some bored teenager from the city. But how? I had locked the chair inside the storage room before leaving. I had the key. I grabbed my cell phone and called the gas station. The automated recording answered. I asked them to review the security cameras. The manager, a guy named Dale, called me back around 10 in the morning. Dude, the cameras have been malfunctioning for 2 weeks. I sent a technician, but he's only coming next week. Excellent. I went over to the child seat. This time, it was closer to the road, facing the asphalt, as if it were waiting for something, or someone. I touched it. The fabric was cold, too cold, as if it had been in the refrigerator for hours. I took it back inside. I locked it in the storage room again. I put a heavy box in front of the door. Ridiculous, I know, but I needed to be sure. The following night, Thursday, she showed up at bomb site number 2, closer. And now, it was geared towards convenience, geared towards me. I felt it. I can't explain it properly. But when you feel someone is looking at you, something in your body reacts, right? Your hairs stand on end. Your stomach tightens. That's exactly what it was. I stayed inside the store until dawn. I couldn't leave. Every time I looked out the window, the little chair was there, motionless. But I swore it had moved a few centimeters, just a few, closer to the glass. At 5:40 in the morning, a truck driver stopped to refuel. He was a big guy with a gray beard and a John Deere cap. "Everything all right there, kid? You look pale." You see that over there?" I pointed to the little chair. He looked. He frowned. "The car seat. Is it yours?" "No. Appears every night. He looked at me as if I were crazy. It must belong to someone who forgot it. Duh. Take it to Lost and Found. He paid and left. And I was left there, alone again. That night, Friday, I didn't want to go to work. I called Dale. I told him I was sick. He was annoyed, but he accepted it. But I couldn't sleep, because at 3:17 in the morning, my phone rang. It was the post number. Wait. Silence on the other end. But I heard it, very faintly, almost imperceptible. A baby's cry. I hung up immediately. I threw the phone on the bed as if it were on fire. I sat in the darkness of my apartment, trembling. The crying, it wasn't loud. It wasn't desperate. It was low, constant, like a recording playing on a loop. But there was something wrong with it. Something empty. I called the gas station back. It went straight to voicemail. I tried to convince myself it was interference, a crossed signal, anything. But I knew, deep down, I knew that wasn't normal. On Saturday night, I went back to work. Not because I wanted to, but because Dale said that if I missed work again, I was fired, and I needed the job. I arrived at 11:30. The previous shift had been Kevin's, a guy in his 50s who rarely spoke. He was leaving when I arrived. Did something strange happen? I asked, trying to sound casual. He looked at me in a strange way. Did you see her? My blood ran cold. Where are you from? The woman. Which woman? Kevin shook his head and slung his backpack over his shoulder. She showed up around 9. She stood near pump number 3. Just standing there, looking this way. I thought she needed help, but when I went outside, she had disappeared. He left before I could ask anything else. I went into the convenience store. I locked the door. I turned on all the lights. I put on some music on the radio, some classic rock station, anything to break the silence. At 2:40, the music stopped. The radio was still on, but there was no sound, just static, that low, continuous hiss. I hung up. Total silence. That's when I heard it. Loss, loss, loss. I knocked on the window. I looked slowly. The little chair was there, right in front of the glass door, less than 2 meters from me, and she was facing directly inward, facing me. My whole body froze. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe properly. And then I saw something moved inside the little chair. It wasn't big. It was small, like an arm or fingers. I stepped back. I bumped into the shelves behind me. Bottles of soda fell to the floor. No, it's not real. It's not real. But it was, because the car seat started rocking. Slowly. Forward. Backward. Forward. Backward. And then I heard it again. That crying. But now it wasn't coming from the phone. I was coming from outside, from the asphalt. I grabbed my cell phone, my hands trembling. I called 911. 911, what is your emergency? There's something here, at the Route 9 gas station. I don't know what it is, but... The call dropped. No signal. I looked out the window again. The car seat was no longer there, but there was a mark on the glass, as if someone had breathed on it, a blurry circle. And inside it, drawn with a finger, a smiling face. I didn't sleep that night, nor the next 2. On Monday, I went to the city library. It sounds silly, I know, but I needed to understand. I needed to know if that had happened before. The librarian, a woman in her 60s named Margaret, helped me access the old archives of the local newspaper. It took almost 2 hours, but I found it. Fatal accident on Route 9 leaves mother and baby dead. The article was from 2011, 14 years ago. A woman named Sarah Brennan, 26, was returning from the hospital with her newborn daughter. It was 3 in the morning. She was tired, very tired. Police said she must have fallen asleep at the wheel. The car went off the road. It crashed head-on into the lamppost, right in front of pump number 3. She died instantly. The baby, too. The car seat was thrown from the vehicle. They found it on the asphalt, intact, but the baby was no longer inside. I read it 3 times. My mouth was dry. My hands were sweating. I went back to the station that same night. Not because I was brave, but because I knew that if I didn't go back, it would never stop. I arrived at 11:40. The gas station was empty, silent. The night was even colder than usual. The wind blew through the pine trees with a sound that resembled moans. I stood behind the counter, waiting. 3:17 in the morning. The convenience store light started flickering. Once, twice, then it went out completely. And then I heard the footsteps. They weren't normal steps. They were shuffling. Slow. Very slow. Coming from the parking lot. Approaching the door. I grabbed the flashlight. I pointed it at the glass. And I saw it. A woman stood outside. Long, dark hair covered her face. Her white dress was stained with something dark. She held the baby seat with both hands, and inside the car seat, there was something small, wrapped in a pink blanket. She slowly lifted her face. She had no eyes, just empty holes. But even so, I knew she was looking at me. Her lips moved. No sound, but I could read it. Please. I stepped back. I hit the wall. My flashlight fell to the ground. When I looked again, she was inside. Inside the store, about 5 meters away from me. She held out the car seat toward me, and then I heard it. Clear, loud, impossible to ignore. The chorus. But it wasn't an ordinary cry. It was full of pain, of despair, of loss. My legs gave way. I fell to my knees. I can't. I don't know what you want. She took another step, and another, and then it stopped. He placed the little chair on the floor, between us, and it disappeared. It didn't gradually disappear. It just stopped being there. The lights came back on. The crying stopped. I stayed there, alone, with my little chair on the floor. I couldn't move for almost an hour. When I finally left, I left everything behind. I didn't go back. I didn't collect my last paycheck. I didn't call Dale. But sometimes, when I wake up at 3:17 in the morning, I can still hear it. The chorus, Shorty, coming from somewhere inside my house. And I know she didn't mean to scare me. She just wanted someone to take her daughter. And I left her there. If something has bothered you so far, hold on tight. This is just the beginning. Something happened to me in a convenience store, and to this day, I can't go into any of them without feeling that chill run down my spine. I had just moved to Portland, Oregon, 23 years old, no college, no experience. I just needed quick cash. That's when I saw the ad. Night shift worker, quick stop, 24H, shift, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., immediate payment. It seemed too good to be true. I should have been suspicious. The store was located on the outskirts of town, in a somewhat forgotten area. A large parking lot, flashing yellow lights, and that heavy silence that only exists far from people. When I arrived for the interview, the manager was already waiting for me at the door. He was thin, somewhat hunched over, with deep-set eyes that seemed not to blink properly. "Are you the boy from the advertisement?" he asked, without smiling. "Yes, sir." "Great. It starts today." He didn't even ask me any questions. He just handed me a faded green uniform and a key. As he showed me around, I noticed the store was strange, too clean, too organized, as if nobody really bought anything there. The shelves were full, but they looked untouched. The floor gleamed under the fluorescent lights that buzzed constantly. "Simple rules," he said, his voice hoarse. "Don't sleep. Keep the cash register open." And he paused, looking directly into my eyes. "Never go to the warehouse after 3 in the morning." I laughed nervously. "Like, why?" He didn't answer. He just handed over the key and left through the back door. I was left alone. The first few hours were quiet. Just a few odd customers. A truck driver who didn't say a word. A hooded woman who bought only matches. And a drunk guy who stood in front of the refrigerator for 15 minutes. But after midnight, the movement stopped completely. Absolute silence. I could hear the hum of the lights, the low hum of the refrigerator, my own breathing. That's when I started to feel it. You know that feeling like someone's watching you. That shiver down your spine that makes you turn around quickly, but there's nothing there. I felt that way all the time. At 2:30 a.m., I went to the back corridor to restock some products. The place was narrow, poorly lit, and smelled of mold and damp cardboard. At the end of the corridor, there was a metal door with a rusty sign, "Storage, employees only." Something about that door made me uncomfortable. I went back to the cashier. At 3:15 a.m., I heard a dry thud coming from the shelves in aisle 3. A bag of potato chips had fallen on the floor. I went there. I picked up the package. I put it back. I went back to the cashier. 3 minutes later, another package fell. My heart raced. It must be the refrigerator's vibration, I thought, trying to calm myself down. But then, I heard footsteps, slow, dragging, coming from the back corridor. I froze. "Hello?" My voice came out shaky. "Is anyone there?" Silence. The footsteps stopped. I stood there, holding onto the counter, breathless, waiting for anything. Nothing. At 6 a.m., the manager returned. He entered through the back door, as always, without saying good morning. "Everything all right?" he asked, without looking at me. Yes, it was peaceful." He nodded slowly, as if expecting a different response. "Great, you'll come back tomorrow." I left there with weak legs. The sun was rising, but I could still feel that cold. Something was wrong in that place. I simply didn't know how much. On the second night, I almost didn't go. I sat in my car for about 20 minutes, looking at the store through the fogged-up windshield. The fluorescent lights flickered occasionally, as if they were tired. The parking lot was empty, too quiet. But I needed the money. I went in. The manager was inside, jotting something down on an old clipboard. When he saw me, he just nodded and left through the back door, as always. No explanations, no goodbyes. And I was alone again. The first few hours were the same. No customers, no sound besides the constant hum of the lights. I tried to distract myself by organizing magazines, cleaning the counter, anything to avoid thinking about the back hallway. But my eyes always returned there. That metal door at the end of the hallway. It seemed to be calling to me. At 3:33 a.m., everything changed. I was at the checkout counter when the lights flickered, once, twice, 3 times, and then I heard the sound, click. The automatic entrance doors locked. By themselves, my stomach dropped. I ran to the door and pushed. Nothing. I tried the manual lock. It wouldn't budge. I tried the back door, locked as well. I was imprisoned. Okay. It must be an electrical problem, I murmured to myself, trying to control my panic. I picked up my cell phone. No signal. That's when I heard steps, slow, dragging, coming from the back corridor. Drag. My body froze. Every muscle locked up. "Is anyone there?" My voice came out weak, trembling. The footsteps stopped. Deadly silence. I took a deep breath and forced my legs to move. I walked slowly to hallway 3, where I had heard footsteps the night before. It was empty, but then... Pam. A can of soup fell from the shelf behind me. I'll turn around quickly. Nothing. Pam. 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 More products began to fall, one after another, as if invisible hands were pushing them. "What the hell is this?" I yelled, stepping back. I ran back to the cashier and grabbed the security camera monitor. My hands were shaking so much I could barely focus. Camera 1, empty hallway. Camera 2, empty hallway. Camera 3, back corridor. My blood ran cold. There was someone there. A silhouette, standing still, at the end of the corridor, with its back to the camera. Hi, property, just stopped. My heart was beating so hard I could hear it in my ears. I looked down the actual hallway. Nothing. I looked back at the monitor. The silhouette had turned its head. I was looking directly at the camera. "No, no, no," I repeated, stepping back. And then she started walking, towards the camera, towards me. I turned off the monitor. I didn't want to see anymore. Drag, drag, drag. The footsteps returned. Louder, closer. I panicked. I ran to the side hallway and hid behind a soda shelf. My breathing was erratic. Sweat was dripping down my face. The footsteps stopped in front of the cash register. Silence, and then I heard a breath. Heavy, wet, as if it came from soaked lungs. I covered my mouth with my hands to avoid screaming. I stayed there, crouched down, trembling, praying for it to go away. I don't know how much time has passed. Seconds, minutes. When I finally dared to move, I looked at my reflection in the glass refrigerator. The hallway was empty, but on the frosted glass of the refrigerator, there was something written, as if someone had run their finger through it. 3 words, "Don't look back." My whole body shivered. I hadn't written that, and nobody had entered the store. I ran to the warehouse. It was the only place I could lock myself in. I opened the metal door with the key the manager had given me and went inside, locking myself in. Dark, cold, smells of mildew. I leaned against the door, breathless, tears streaming down my face. And then I heard it. On the other side of the door. Very close. A voice, low, whispering, "You shouldn't be here. If you've ever worked alone at night, tell me in the comments if something similar has ever happened to you." I stood motionless, leaning against the metal door, my hand still gripping the doorknob. The voice on the other end did not repeat itself. Just silence. A silence so heavy, it felt like it was pressing on my ears. My breathing was erratic. Cold sweat trickled down my back. I wanted to get out of there. But getting out meant opening that door. And I couldn't. I felt around on the wall until I found the light switch. Click. A single fluorescent light flickered on the ceiling, dimly illuminating the storage room. The place was bigger than I had imagined. Rusty shelves full of dusty boxes, some open, others stacked strangely, as if someone had run out in the middle of something. The floor was cracked concrete, and on the walls, my God, there were marks, deep scratches, as if fingernails or something worse had repeatedly scraped the concrete. Some marks formed long vertical lines extending down to the floor, and dark spots, old, rusty, blood. "What the hell is this?" I murmured, trembling. That's when I saw it. In the corner of the warehouse, partially hidden behind a stack of boxes, an old mattress, dirty, torn, and next to it, a notebook. My heart raced. I walked slowly over there, each step echoing in the silent storage room. I picked up the notebook. The cover was stained, the pages yellowed and damp. Shelter. The handwriting was shaky, hurried, and almost illegible in parts. Day 1. I thought it would be easy. Just stay up all night, but something's wrong here. Day 3. The lights flickered 3 times today. The door's locked. I couldn't get out until dawn. Day 7. I hear footsteps every night. Always after 3 a.m., always coming from the back. I skipped a few pages. Day 12. I saw something on the cameras. A silhouette. I don't know what it is, but I know it's watching me. Day 15. I tried to get out. I broke the window. But when I got to the other side, I was back inside the store, as if I had never left. My hands trembled as I turned the next page. Day 18. I'm sleeping in the warehouse now. It's the only place I can breathe. But I hear knocking, always at night, like something wants to get in. Day 21. I found marks on the walls, scratches. I don't know when they're from or whose. And then, the last page. The handwriting was completely disordered, scribbled forcefully, tearing the paper in places. Do not stay after 3:33 a.m. He knows you're here. Don't look back. No matter what you hear, don't look. I dropped the notebook on the floor. My breath caught in my throat. And that's when I heard it, breathing, behind me. Slow, heavy, wet. My whole body froze. Every fiber of my being screamed, turn around, look, see what it is. But I couldn't, because I knew. If I turned around, I would see something I shouldn't see. Breathing became closer. I could feel it. The cold air on the back of my neck. The smell. God, the smell. Mold. Rotten flesh. Something long dead. I closed my eyes tightly. Please, please, I whispered. Bam! Something slammed against one of the metal shelves next to me. The noise echoed throughout the entire warehouse. I let out a muffled scream and ran forward, tripping over boxes and knocking everything over in my path. Bam! 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 More beats, louder and louder, closer and closer. The lights started flickering. Piska, 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 and then total darkness. I couldn't see anything. I could only hear steps, multiple, dragging, coming from all directions, and laughter. Children's laughter, high-pitched, distorted. It was as if children were playing in the dark, but they weren't children. I knew that. I leaned against the cold wall, sliding down to the floor, hugging my knees, trembling uncontrollably. This isn't real! This isn't real! I repeated like a mantra, but it was. Everything was. And then, the voice, right beside me, whispering in my ear, "You shouldn't have stayed." The lights came back on, and I saw it. The warehouse door. It was open, wide open, as if something had gotten in, or as if something wanted me to leave. I don't know how long I stayed there, huddled on the warehouse floor. Seconds, minutes, hours. Time had ceased to make sense. When I finally managed to move, my legs were numb. I stood up slowly, every muscle in my body tense, ready to run. The door remained open. On the other side, the store was silent, a wrong kind of silence, as if the very air were holding his breath. I staggered out of the warehouse, holding onto the wall to keep from falling. The back hallway was empty. The fluorescent lights hummed softly, flickering occasionally. I walked to the cashier, and then I saw the digital clock above the door, 3:33. Yet, my stomach churned. I looked at my cell phone. It showed 4:47 a.m., but the store clock is still stuck at 3:33. No, 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 I murmured, my voice faltering. I ran to the front door and pushed it with all my might. Locked. I kicked. I punched the glass. Nothing. It was like hitting concrete. I recoiled, my breathing erratic. And that's when I realized the beverage refrigerators are on the side of the store. The windows were fogged up, and there was something written on them from the inside, as if fingers had run across the icy glass inside locked refrigerators. "You cannot leave. You never leave. They never leave." My whole body trembled. I looked at the camera monitor on the counter. I called with trembling hands. Camera 1, empty hallway. Camera 2, empty hallway. Camera 3, storage. There was someone inside, standing still in the middle of the warehouse. Costs, tall, stooped, arms too long, hanging down almost to the ground. My blood froze. I looked down the back hallway. Empty. I looked back at the monitor. The figure had turned its head. Not completely. Just enough for me to see. A pale face, deep-set eyes, mouth open in an impossible smile. And then, it started walking. Towards the camera, towards the warehouse door, towards me. I turned off the monitor and ran. I didn't know where to go. I just ran. I walked through the aisles, dropping products, tripping, slipping on the shiny floor. And then I stopped, in front of the beverage refrigerator, because I saw something in the reflection of the glass. My reflection, but he wasn't moving with me. I was breathing heavily, hands on my knees, but my reflection was still, straight, looking directly at me. And then he smiled. A wide smile, impossible. I stumbled back and fell to the ground. Drag, drag, drag. The steps, coming from the back hallway, slow, deliberate. I crawled backward, leaning against the shelf, unable to take my eyes off the hallway. And then, he appeared. The silhouette, emerging from the darkness, tall, stooped, gray skin, empty eyes. Each step he took made a wet sound, like meat dragging on the ground. He stopped, in the middle of the hallway, and he tilted his head to the side, like a curious dog. My throat was closed up. I couldn't scream. I couldn't move. He took another step, and another. It was 3 meters away from me. 2 meters. I could see it now. His eyes weren't empty. There was something inside them. Faces. Faces screaming. Ding! The sound of the door. The lights flickered violently, and everything stopped. The figure disappeared, like smoke. The digital clock jumped from 3:33 to 6 p.m. The doors unlocked with a click-toll. Sunlight streamed in through the windows. I was on the floor, trembling, sweat soaking my shirt, tears streaming down my face. I got up, staggering, and ran. I ran out of that damned store and never looked back. 3 weeks later, I still can't sleep properly. Every night, I wake up at 3:33 in the morning, always, like a clock. I tried to forget. I tried to move on. But yesterday, I saw something in the local newspaper. Convenience store employee mysteriously disappeared. The photo was of a boy, maybe 18 years old, smiling. The store was Quick Stop, my old shop. He had started the night shift 2 weeks ago. And then, it just disappeared. The cameras showed him entering at 10 p.m., but never leaving. They searched for days, inside the store, in the warehouse, in the aisles. Nothing. As if he had dissolved into thin air. But I know where he is. He's still in there, taken, like so many others before him. Because that place is not a store, it's a trap. And since the doors lock at 3:33 in the morning, you never really leave. Sometimes, late at night, when I drive through that area, I see the store lights flickering, and I swear I see silhouettes in the glass. Stops, looking outside, waiting. If you ever need an easy job, and you see an ad for the night shift at a 24-hour store, please, just keep driving. Because some doors, they should never be opened. And some places, they never let you go. If you want more stories like this, subscribe. because the next one could be about you. My name is Bruno. I work as a gas station attendant on Route 40, somewhere between nowhere and nowhere. It's the kind of place you only stop if you're desperate for gas or reheated coffee. During the day, a few truckers pass by. At night, it's just me, the hum of the refrigerators, and the silence of the road. I took the night shift because it pays more. Simple as that. From 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., 6 nights a week. At first, I thought it would be easy. No annoying clients, no rush, no pressure. Just me, my phone, and time slowly passing by. But after 3 months of doing this, you start to feel the weight of the silence. You know when you're alone for so long that you start paying attention to sounds you never noticed before. The sound of the freezer turning on, the wind hitting the metal awning, your own footsteps echoing on the cold floor. That night, it was a Tuesday or Wednesday. I don't remember anymore. What I do remember is that it was empty. No cars had stopped in the last 2 hours. I was at the counter watching videos on my phone, half asleep, when I heard the sound. Ding. The automatic door. I looked up. The door was open, but there was no one there. I frowned. I stood up, walked around the counter, and looked outside. The street was empty. No cars, no people. Just the cold morning wind and the rustling of a plastic bag stuck to the fence. I went back inside. The door closed behind me. It must be a problem with the sensor, I thought. But something bothered me. I looked at the security monitor behind the counter. We have 4 cameras: entrance, drinks aisle, gas pumps, and parking lot. I rewound the recording a few seconds. 3:12 a.m. The door opens. The motion sensor indicates presence detected, but in the image, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Just the door opening by itself, as if someone had walked through it. I felt a strange discomfort creeping up my spine. It wasn't fear yet. It was strangeness. That kind of feeling when something doesn't make sense, but you still try to rationalize it. An insect, or the wind, I don't know. I turned off the monitor. I went back to the counter, and I continued waiting for my shift to end. I tried to go back to my phone. I tried to focus on anything. But my eyes kept returning to that door. It was closed, immobile, normal. But I couldn't stop thinking about the sensor. Presence detected. How is that possible when there's nothing there? I shook my head. Stop it, Bruno. You're tired. I got up, grabbed an old coffee from the machine aisle, and went back to the counter. It tasted awful, but at least it kept me awake. I looked at the clock. 3:34 a.m. There were still more than 2 hours to go. That's when I felt it. Something passed behind me. It wasn't a sound. It wasn't a touch. It was the width. The air moved, like when someone passes by you very close, too fast, and you feel the displacement on your skin. My shirt fluttered slightly at the back. Guided. I turned my head slowly. Nothing. Nobody. Just the shelves, the fluorescent lights flickering softly, and the empty hallway. My heart started beating faster. "Hi," I said. My voice sounded weak, almost pathetic. Silence. But it wasn't a normal silence. It was dense, heavy, as if something was listening. I took a few steps toward the aisles. My sneakers creaked on the floor. I looked between the shelves. Nothing. I went to the bathroom. Empty. I went back to the storage room. Locked, as always. I took a deep breath. "You're freaking out, man. Go have some more coffee and forget about it." I went back to the counter. I sat down. I picked up my phone again. And then I heard it. Steps, slow, dragging, coming from the drinks aisle. My blood froze. I looked at the monitor. The camera showed the hallway. Empty. But the sound was there. But I was listening. Footsteps, clear, real, drag, drag, drag. They stopped. Right at the end of the hallway, where the camera can't quite reach. I stood up slowly, without making a sound. My breath was short. I felt cold sweat trickle down the back of my neck. "Who's there?" I called, trying to sound firm. My voice came out shaky. Nothing. Then, I heard something else. Breathing. Hoarse. Heavy. Irregular. As if someone were having trouble breathing. Or as if they were holding the air. And it was close. Very close. I looked around. Nothing. Nobody. But the breathing continued, and it seemed to be coming from behind me. I'll turn around quickly. Nothing. But the sound. The sound was Leaf. That's when I remembered the cameras. With trembling hands, I returned to the monitor and rewound the last recordings. I checked all the cameras, entrance, corridor, bombs, parking lot, empty. Everything is empty. But the motion sensor, it kept firing, in sequence, as if someone were walking through the store. I felt my stomach churn. Something was here, with me, and I couldn't see. If this already made you uncomfortable, imagine what comes next. I needed proof. I needed to know if I was going crazy or if something was really wrong. The cameras weren't showing anything, but the security system also records audio. I'd never used that function before. I didn't even know exactly how to access it. But at that moment, with sweaty palms and my heart pounding, rummaging through the files seemed like the only rational thing to do. I opened the program on the old computer at the counter. The interface was confusing, full of tabs and code. It took me a few minutes before I found audio recording, night shift. I put on my headphones. I pressed play. At first, just static. Then, ambient sounds. The hum of the refrigerators. My own footsteps. My voice murmuring to myself as I organized the cigarettes behind the counter. Nothing else. I fast-forwarded to 3:12 a.m. The moment the door opened. Ding. I heard the sound of the door. I heard my footsteps going towards it. My voice. It must be a problem with the sensor. And then, I heard something else. Breathing. It wasn't mine. It was different, more serious, slower, hoarse, and it was close, very close to the microphone. I paused the audio. My hand was shaking so much I almost dropped the mouse. I took a deep breath. I pressed play again. The sounds continued. Me walking. Me talking to myself. And that breathing. Always there. Always close. As if someone were walking beside me the whole time. I moved further. 3:34 a.m. The moment I felt the air move. In the audio, I heard my footsteps stopping, my breathing quickening, and then drag, 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 the steps. They were recorded. They were real. My whole body shivered. I kept listening. My own voice. Who's there? Silence. And then, very quietly, almost imperceptible, a whisper. I couldn't understand the words, but it was there. A voice. Hoarse. Distorted. Saying something my brain refused to process. I ripped the headphones off my ears. My breathing was erratic. I looked around the store. Everything seemed normal. The lights were on. The shelves were organized. The clock showed 4:07 a.m. But now I knew. It was by my side the whole time. I grabbed my car keys. I needed to get out of there. I didn't care if I lost my job. I didn't care about anything. I ran to the door. I pushed. She opened it. The cold night air hit me like a slap. I ran to my car in the parking lot. I opened the door. I got in. I locked it. I put the key in the ignition. Gray. Click, click, click. Nothing. I tried again. Click, click, click. The car wouldn't start. No, 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 I whispered, feeling panic rising in my throat. I looked in the rearview mirror. The store was lit. Empty. but the automatic door sensor was flashing. Presence detected. And then, slowly, very slowly, the door began to open, but there was nobody outside. At least, nothing that I could see. I was paralyzed inside the car. My hands gripped the steering wheel, my eyes fixed on the open door of the store. The sensor kept blinking. Presence detected, but there was nothing there. My breathing was so rapid that the glass began to fog up. I tried the key again, and again, and again. Click, click, click. Please, please, Link. That's when I heard the banging. Talk, talk, talk. On the glass, right next to me. I turned my head slowly, my heart pounding in my chest. There was nobody there. But the beat had been real. I heard it. I felt the vibration in the glass. Talk, talk, talk. Again, harder, as if someone were tapping with their knuckles. Persistent, patient. Go away, I whispered. Go away, go away, go away. And then, I felt it. A pressure on my shoulder. Cold, heavy, like fingers digging into my skin through my shirt. I screamed. I pushed the door open and staggered out of the car. I fell onto the asphalt. I scraped my hands. I didn't care. I got up and ran. I ran back to the store. I don't know why. It didn't make sense. But my brain went into pure panic, and all I wanted was light. I wanted an enclosed space. I wanted walls. I entered through the automatic door and locked it manually from the inside. I leaned my back against the glass door, breathless, sweaty, trembling. I looked at the parking lot. Empty. My car was there, parked, alone. But then, the store lights started flickering. They blink. They go out. They turn on. They blink. No. The buzzing of the refrigerators increased. It became high-pitched, painful, as if something was pushing the appliances beyond their limit. And then, everything went dark. Total darkness. Absolute silence. My heart was beating so hard I could hear the blood pulsing in my ears. I stood still, without moving, without breathing. And then, I felt it again. The air is moving. Right in front of me. Something was, but just inches from my face. I could smell his breath, cold, damp, smelling of mold and something rotten. And I heard it, very softly, very close to my ear. A whisper. It wasn't words. It was suns distorted, dragged out, as if something were trying to imitate a human voice, but couldn't quite remember how to do it. I closed my eyes tightly. Tears streamed down my face. Please, please, leave me alone. The lights came back on. Flick. I opened my eyes. The store was empty. Normal. Quiet. I looked around. Nothing. Nobody. But my shoulder still hurt. And when I looked down, I saw marks on my shirt, as if fingers had squeezed hard. I never went back to that gas station again. I called the next day and said I was sick. I never answered my boss's calls again. I got another job. At a supermarket. Day shift. Crowded with people. But sometimes, when I'm at home, alone, I feel the air moving behind me. And when I look at the security cameras on my street through the app, the sensor detects someone standing at my door. But when I look out the window, there's nobody there. At least, nothing that I can achieve. See? Something happened to me 3 months ago, and since then, I haven't been able to work nights anymore. My name is Marcus. I was the night manager at the Northgate Mall in Sacramento, California. An old mall, built in the 80s, with that smell of old carpet and air conditioning that never completely shuts off. Most stores closed at 9 p.m., but I stayed until 2 a.m., checking doors, lights, security cameras. It was a solitary job, silent, but I liked it. The empty corridors had something cinematic about them. yellowish lights reflecting on the faux marble floor, the echo of my footsteps. Sometimes I would spend 20 minutes without hearing anything but the hum of the light fixtures. But there was one place in the mall that I avoided whenever possible: the men's restroom in Corridor B. It was located at the back, near the abandoned food court. Nobody used that section after 8 p.m. The shops there had all been closed for years, windows covered with brown paper, faded "for rent" signs. The bathroom was always malfunctioning. The door would lock on its own. The light would flicker. The toilet would flush randomly. I had already called maintenance 3 times. They said it was either old wiring or unstable water pressure, but I knew something was wrong. Once, a delivery man came out of there pale and sweating profusely. He said he heard someone banging on the wall of the next stall, but all the stalls were empty. Again, a cleaning lady refused to enter. He said he smelled a strong odor of something rotten, like spoiled meat. But when I opened the door, the bathroom was normal, smelled of disinfectant, nothing else. I tried to rationalize it. Old building, bad plumbing, coincidences. But deep down, I always avoided going near that hallway after midnight. Until the evening of September 12th, I was doing my routine patrol. Everything was normal. Absolute silence. I was about to leave when my cell phone rang. An unknown number. I answered without thinking. And on the other end of the line, I heard the voice of a man who was about to die of fright. "Hello?" The voice on the other end was breathless, trembling. "Please, you need to help me." I stopped in the middle of the hallway. I looked at my cell phone. Unknown number. Local area code. "Sir, who am I speaking to? I don't know what's happening. The door locked. I'm trapped here." My stomach turned to ice. "Where are you?" "In the bathroom, at the mall. The lights went out. I can't get out." I was already running. "Which bathroom? Where exactly?" I don't know. There was a sign. Corridor B, I think. Shit. I ran faster. My footsteps echoed through the empty mall like gunshots. My cell phone was glued to my ear. "It's okay. I'm coming to you. Stay calm. What's your name?" "David. My name is David." His voice was breaking. He was crying. "David, listen. I'm the manager. I'm going to get you out of there. The door sometimes jams, but we broke it open before. It's fine. Are you listening to me?" Silence. "David? Is there someone here with me?" I stopped running. "What? There's someone in here." My heart raced. "David, did you see anyone come in?" "No. The light went out. But I can hear. He's breathing. Who's breathing?" "I don't know." His voice was hysterical now. "He's close to me. I can feel it. He's sniffing my neck." I started running again. I turned into Corridor B. The lights were flashing. The bathroom was at the end. The door was closed. "David, I'm almost there. Hang in there. He's touching my shoulder. David, I'm here." I arrived at the bathroom door. I knocked hard. "David! Can you hear me?" On the other end of the line, I heard a muffled sound, as if he had dropped his cell phone, and then a whisper, grave, hoarse, inhuman. "I found you." The call dropped. I stood there, phone still in hand, staring at that locked door. And for the first time in 3 years, working at that mall, I was afraid to open a door, but I knew I needed to. I called security. I asked them to bring a crowbar. And while I was waiting, I heard something from the other end. A slow drag. It was as if someone were being dragged across the ceramic floor. The security guard arrived 3 minutes later. A guy named Pete, an ex-military man, always calm. But when he saw my face, He realized something was wrong. What happened? There's someone trapped inside. They called me. The door is locked. Pete looked at the door. He picked up the crowbar. Did you try calling? I tried. He's not responding anymore. Pete banged on the door forcefully. Is anyone in there? I'm going to break down the door. Silence. He stuck the crowbar into the crack. He strained. The wood creaked. The lock gave way with a dry snap. The door opened. The bathroom was completely empty. The light was on now, pale fluorescent. The 3 stalls were open, sinks dry, mirror clean, no sign of anyone. Pete entered slowly, checking every corner. There's nobody here, Marcus. I went in behind him. My heart was pounding erratically. That's impossible. I heard him. He was here. Pete opened each stall, empty. He checked behind the door. Nothing. Are you sure he said he was in that bathroom? He said corridor B. That's the only bathroom in that corridor. Pete scratched the back of his neck, confused. Dude, there's no way he could have gotten out. The door was locked from the inside. That's when I saw it. On the ground, near the last stall, a cell phone. I crouched down. It was an iPhone with a black case. The screen was lit, still recording. The voice recording app was open. The timer was showing 0:19:43, 19 minutes and 43 seconds. Pete approached. Is it his? It must be. I picked up my cell phone. My hands were shaking. Pete looked around once more. I'll check the cameras, see if he left through another route. He left the bathroom. I stayed there, alone, holding that cell phone. The recording was still playing. I looked at the screen. My finger hovered over the pause button, and then I heard something, coming from the last box. A slow breath. Deep. I froze. Pete? No answer. He had already left. The breathing continued. I turned slowly toward the stall. The door was ajar. I took 1 step, 2, 3. I pushed the door open with the tip of my finger. The stall was empty, but on the ground, there were damp marks, as if someone had been standing there for a very long time. And on the wall tile, written with a finger, still wet, you too. I ran out of that bathroom. When I got to the hallway, Pete was coming back. The cameras didn't capture anything. No one has entered or left that corridor in the last 2 hours. I showed him my cell phone. He left it. He was recording. Pete frowned. Did you hear? I hadn't heard it yet, but I knew I needed to. I pressed pause. The recording stopped at 0:21:17, 21 minutes. I looked at Pete. Let's listen at the office. I didn't want to hear that there, not in that hallway. We got out of there as quickly as possible. But as we walked, I could have sworn I heard footsteps behind us. Boards. Dragged. We sat down in my office. The room was small, with no windows. Just a desk, 2 chairs, and a security monitor flashing in the corner. Pete closed the door. I put my cell phone on the table. The screen still displayed the recording application. Tug 21:17 paused. I took a deep breath. Ready? Pete nodded. I pressed play. 0, 0. The audio began with heavy breathing, rapid, gasping, at the voice of David. Hello, hello, please, someone, the door is locked. I can't get out. He was trying to call someone. That's probably when he called me. 000234. Damn it, damn it. The lights went out. I heard the sound of him banging on the door, punching, screaming. Is anyone there? Please. Silence. Only her breathing. Irregular. Terrified. E0512. A noise. Something is dragging. Pete leaned forward. Are you listening to this? I agreed. The sound was low, muffled, like something being dragged across the ceramic floor. David's breathing quickened. What is that? 00745. Another sound, a breath of fresh air. But it wasn't his. It was different, slow, moist, as if it came from something with a soaked throat. David started to cry. Please, please, get out of here. Let me out. Outrage 10, 20. Breathing was getting closer. And then, a whisper, guttural, drawn out. David. Pete and I looked at each other. The hairs on my arms stood on end. How did it know his name? 01203. No. Get away from me. The sound of something falling. The cell phone hitting the floor. But the recording continued. I heard footsteps. Not shoes. It was different. Wet. Sticky. And then, David's voice. Low. Trembling. Please, don't hurt me. I have a family. I have a daughter. Silence. 001451. The whisper returned. Closer, as if it were right next to the phone. I found you. And then, nothing. Just silence. For almost 6 minutes. 20, 40. One last sound. Footsteps receding into the distance. And just before the recording ended, a laugh. Low. Childish. Echoing. The recording is over. Pete and I remained silent. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ear. Dude, Pete whispered. What the hell was that? I couldn't answer. My hands were shaking. Pete stood up. We need to call the police. There's a missing person. This is serious. I agreed, but part of me knew the police wouldn't find anything. They filed a police report. They searched the mall. They checked the security cameras. They spoke with the cleaning staff. They checked the visitor list. There was no record of any David entering the mall that night. And the cell phone. It didn't have any fingerprints registered. No contacts. No photos. Just that recording. They closed the case as a hoax. But I knew it wasn't. I resigned the following week. But since then, I receive calls. Always at 3:47 a.m. Unknown number. When I answer, there's no one on the other end. Just that slow breath. Wet. And there have been 3 nights. When I answered, I heard my own voice, whispering, "Now it's your turn." If you listen to the end, comment, "I heard the whispers." And if you want more stories like this, just follow the voice, because she already knows your name.